Hi everyone, I'm April, and you're watching the Tangled Cat Speaks. I honestly don't remember which episode this is. I think it's 20 or 21. I don't know. I should probably look. I'm gonna look. I'll be back. Hi everyone, I'm April, and you're watching the Tangled Cat Speaks, and this is episode number 21. I'm very excited because I finally get to show you the shawl that I had been working on based on a photograph that I fell in love with. Now this is the Luthean shawl and it's all done. It actually came out quite a bit smaller than I was expecting. The pattern called for either a US 5 or US 6 depending on how you liked the fabric, and I liked the fabric better with the 5, but it definitely came out smaller and a lot smaller than I was expecting. I think I was expecting this to be like a huge shawl, but it's really more of a shawl, which is fine. It's still beautiful. I did make one modification. Down at the bottom was supposed to be like a chevron border, garter chevron, where you change colors every 2 rows and it makes the wavy border, but I just wanted lace. I was craving lace. I love lace. So I checked my stitch count and I went back through some of the patterns that I purchased in the past and decided that I had the perfect amount of stitches for the same border that was on the Hail Bop shawl that I did a while back. I believe that was Amba O'Brien's pattern. And it's a really simple lace pattern, so I just went ahead and added that on there. And I'll go ahead and throw in a picture as well of the photograph one more time. But I love it. It turned out so pretty, and you can totally, you know, wear it frontwards and tuck it under. It's too small for my liking to wear over my shoulders the way that I normally wear my shawls, but it looks so pretty like this, and I love it. This part here, the cream and the yellow, it's supposed to be high contrast the way the colors are up here in the pattern, but because I was trying to base this off of a photograph and the rock wall had those 2 colors, I knew that the mosaic knitting in that particular section was going to be very subtle, but it turned out exactly like I wanted. And then I used just the cream at the bottom for the lace. And it's kind of good that those colors blended just a little bit, because there is one row where I was totally off count. I don't know what I did, and I just kind of fudged the numbers. There was no way I was going to go back and try to tink back and figure out where the heck I had messed up. But it worked out in the end, and it's so subtle. The colors are so subtle that you can't see. Even I can't find exactly where I made the mistake. But I'm so excited. I love it so much. And after I blocked it, it did grow a little bit, but it laid more flat, and it's more open and airy. Just, you know, blocking is a necessary evil, but when you do it, oh my goodness, it just changes everything about your knitting, and it just looks so pretty. And I'm one of those, I love blocking. Excuse me. I love when I've bound off and I can lay it down and start pinning it out after I've soaked it in some sweet smelling wool wash. This time I think I used, it was a grapefruit scented one. I think it's called Soak, but it was a grapefruit scent. So clean smelling. I love it. But when when I'm pinning it out, I'm so excited, and then I'll leave it overnight, and then the next morning I wake up and I'm like, oh, it's there, and I start pulling out the pins, and it stays in its shape, and oh, it just makes me so happy. It's the most gratifying feeling to me to unpin something that I've just blocked overnight. So I was super excited to get this one done. And the lace pattern from the Hail Bop really worked well with this. So I'm super excited. Let's just throw that there. And then let's see, what else did I do? Speaking of blocking, I was thinking, as I was just saying now, I get so excited after I bind off that I I soak and I block right away. I don't tuck in my ends until after it's been blocked. After I pull all the pins out and I pick it up, and then I'll go back and I'll weave in all my ends. I know that some people do that for a particular reason. I honestly don't really know the reasoning. Some people say that you can keep your tension better. Some people like to weave in the ends before they block. Honestly, for me, excuse me, it's just a matter of I'm too excited to weave in my ends. I just want to block it. I just want to get it done. I want to see the whole thing bloom out into something gorgeous. That's the only reason why I do it that way. I know that there's both ways to do it, and I think both ways are perfectly fine. I don't think that it really matters in the long run, as long as you're careful to watch your tension. I've never had an issue with any of my ends coming undone for having weave them in after blocking, so I think I'm good. But it just kind of went through my head now that I was talking about how excited I get when I'm finished and I just want to block something. Pull out the pins. So there's that. And I did, yay, finish one of my daughter's socks. Oh my God, I love it so much. So pretty. It totally ended in purple. I thought it was going to end in the brown, but it didn't. It ended in purple. You can kind of see there's like a browny purple in here, and then it's a little bit lighter, and then it's very light down here. But oh my God, I love them. So this was the Mad Mix socks, and actually it's only the top 3 patterns, stitch patterns. There's this zigzaggy pattern here in the blue. Then in the greens, I've got this other lacy lacy garter stitch, and then down here is a knit and purl combination, a texture combination. Now down here, I think I mentioned this was the chart from the Sign of the Prancing Pony socks by Claire Ellen. And then this here, this section was also from Claire Ellen, and I believe this was one of the smaller charts for the Gimli socks. And just a couple of columns of really intricate cables. And then just my regular wedge toe, square toe. And then it was the heel flap and gusset, and it's just a slip stitch. I love Eye of Partridge, but I think I only really like Eye of Partridge when it's like speckled yarn or variegated yarn, because it just kind of rearranges the colors and it looks really pretty. In a solid color, I don't mind just doing the mindless regular old slip stitch heel. But I love it so much. I can't wait to give them to her. So I have started the second sock, and I just finished the cuff, and it looks like I have been able to match up the colors so that my stripes will line up on the other sock. So that's a good thing. I do have, let's see, these were the 2 balls that I had left from the first 50 grams. So I'm assuming I'm going to have 2 small balls like this again after I finish the other sock, and there's still a lot of brown and a lot of purple left. So I'm thinking if I have enough, I might be able to maybe make a cowl, just a small, narrow, close to the neck kind of cowl, with the colors just kind of going back and forth between the brown and the purple. So I'm kind of excited I got this, and if it's not quite enough to make a full cowl, I can always supplement with something more contrasting, like maybe a cream or a light pink or something. But yay, I'm excited. I've got some left and I can still use that, and if anything, some of it is going to go into my memory blanket. Yay. So there's that. I was super excited when I finally did the end of it, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's all purple. I love all of these. Maybe not so much the brown, but every single other color in this sock are my colors. Perfect. I love it so much. Yay. Let me put my Gotta put my needles back in the little DPN holder. I'm using my holder that has all of the different styles of coffee pots on it. I showed it before. I love this one. Let's do this side. I just love it so much. It's just so pretty. So that's what I'm doing, and I gotta make sure to be diligent about putting them in there, because then I lose them if I don't, and then I'm upset. Then I gotta spend money on more stuff. It's just a tragedy. So speaking of caffeine, my coffee pot, cozy. I'm not drinking coffee right now, but I am drinking tea. This is the Irish breakfast from Twinings. I love Irish breakfast. I love all of the dark black teas. Irish breakfast, English breakfast, Earl Grey, and Lady Grey. I get that combination box from Twinings. Oh, it's my favorite. So I know it's evening right now, and I probably shouldn't be drinking a black tea this late, because I might end up staying awake a little too long, but that's okay. I love it. So some other exciting stuff is I finished the Maggie Sefton book, Only Skein Deep. And again, I wasn't 100% sold on this book. I don't know, that I couldn't fall in love with the characters and the story, and it was just, there was hardly any murder mystery sleuthing involved in this book at all. It was all about the main character getting ready to have a baby. And of course, by the end of the book, she was in labor, and, you know, she had somehow magically figured out who the killer was just as she went into labor. And she really did, like, most of the books have been more her, you know, sneaking around and getting into situations that she shouldn't be in. And, you know, it's exciting, it's adventurous, and this one was just kind of like, oh, somebody walked in the door, she gossiped with them a little bit, and then she gossiped with somebody else a little bit, and suddenly she managed to solve the crime. This one was not, in my opinion, up to par to the rest of the books in this series. But I finished it, and it's only because I've been devoted to this series since book 1, and this was 15. So we'll see how 16 goes, and I hope that this isn't a trend for her, because, you know, I have been devoted and I just want to continue with it. But, you know, if I'm not into it next book, then bye, baby. Have a good time. Okay. If I'm not into it in the next book, then I'll probably just discontinue it, unfortunately. But that's how it goes. And I did finish Cat Among the Pigeons, and I only read this one super fast because I've read it several times before. You know, I have a little bit of a memory problem where I read books and then I can go back a couple years and read it again and it'll still feel fresh, because, you know, I don't always remember who did it, and I don't always remember a lot of the fine details, and sometimes there were details that I didn't notice the first time, and then I'm like, oh, look at that, you know, that kind of thing. And it always seems new to me. I think I mentioned it before, I tend to have a paper book, and I've got a book on my Kindle app on my phone at all times, and then I listen to audiobooks while I'm knitting. So I've always got stories going all the time, so I don't think that my mind really retains every single minute detail of these books. So when I go back and read them again with the Delicious Death Group and Ravelry, you know, there's only so many Agatha Christie books, so, you know, we tend to recycle them every couple of years. And I always find it exciting. I don't get bored. Oh, I already read that. Oh, I already read that a few times. And I don't get bored at all with Agatha Christie. And like I said, because you know, it tends to be a few years before we recycle, we start the whole cycle again with the books, that it's always like I'm new to it, and I fall in love with her every single time. I love, love, love Agatha Christie. You might have noticed that my cat, I know she's been on the show a couple of times, just, you know, sneaking around. I think the one time she tried to eat my yarn. But her name is Aggie, aka Agatha, and that is because I love Agatha Christie. So I finished Cat Among the Pigeons, and I've started another book in a series that I have been reading. This is by excuse me, Betty Hechtman. 8, 9, 10, 11. This is like 11 or 12 in this series. It's the crochet mystery series. This book is Hooking for Trouble, and again, it's Betty Hechtman. I really like this series. It's another cozy mystery with an amateur sleuth, and this particular protagonist works in a bookstore that has a small yarn department within the store. I really enjoy it, and I like it because it's crochet. I do knit and crochet, so you know, I read my knitting mysteries and then I read this crochet mystery. I still can't get enough of murder mysteries, if you haven't figured out. So those are books. Okay, so now the most exciting thing that I'm going to talk about. I started watching a couple of different podcasts recently. I started watching A Wooden Nest. That girl is just super adorable. I love her aesthetic. Her house, her home is just all filled with very natural things. She's done a couple of mini videos of making things like homemade granola and homemade Nutella type spread. She's shown how she makes homemade candles out of beeswax, and she does her own yarn dyeing with natural dyes, and she's just so soft-spoken and mellow, and I just love her whole aesthetic. I just love watching her. I just binge watched, I think it's 9 episodes so far, and then the couple of mini videos that she's got in there. I think the only one that I have left to watch are the ones involving how she makes kombucha, which I have tried before and I don't care for, but I think it would be interesting to see how it's made, because I don't know. But I've been watching her, so that's A Wooden Nest here on YouTube. And I also started watching Nora George Yarns. I love her. I love her so much. She's just so cute. I can't. I love her. I love watching her. And she just started doing videos also about machine sock knitting. And it makes me want to go out and spend money on one of these sock knitting machines and just crank things out. She's just super cute. I just love her. She's just, I don't know, I can't even describe. I just love watching her. And she also sells yarn. Her actual name is Tracy, but her YouTube channel and her yarn shop is called Dora George Yarns. So I went to her shop the other night because I had just got paid. And I said, well, I'm moving soon, so I can't order too many things because I don't want things to get lost in transit between the old house and the new house. So I ordered a yarn from her knowing it was coming from overseas. I ordered it right away as quick as I could so that it could get here. It actually got here way faster than I expected. So this is what I got. This is Nora George Yarns, and she simply called this yarn green. There's a lot more going on than just green. There are some deep teals and this lovely lime acid green. And then she's got these tiny bits of black speckles. And then you can see where the lime and the teals are blending here. I love it. I love it, and I say it a million times, I love green. I don't buy as much green as you would think, it being my favorite color, but that's because it is my favorite color, and I kind of have to watch myself. For a while there, I had nothing but green yarns, and it was kind of like, well, what am I going to make? Something green. So I was trying to get out of my comfort zone, and that led me to purples and grays and blues, which I still love those. Those are, all 4 of those colors are 100% my thing. But I hadn't bought anything green in a while. And now that I'm moving, I found that I had a similar yarn, from Hue Loco from a while back. This is a singles yarn, single sock yarn. So it's 100% super 100% superwash merino single. And I have 3 singles that are also superwash and all 400 yards, the same as this Nora George one. These are all Hue Loco, and I don't know if she still does this base, but it's the Boca sock, and I've got one in it. This is called Woodsy, and then I've got Banana Who, yellow. I think I've mentioned this a few times. I am not a friend of yellow. Yellow doesn't like me. I don't like yellow, but I can use yellow as an accent. As a main overall color, no, you won't catch me doing that anytime soon. But as an accent color, I'm good with it. And it actually looks really beautiful up against these raspberries and purples and this little pops of dark foresty green. So, and it's like a marigold kind of yellow. This is just about the one shade of yellow that I can tolerate. So I got that. And then the other one that I have is, this is called Lucky Charm. And again, there's my green. And I've been dying to make something with this, but I didn't know what. And I decided on a combination of all 4 of these yarns. Since I got the one by Nora George, it kind of fits right in the middle of the other 2. So that works perfect. I'll be able to somehow blend all these colors together. And there's a pattern, and I can't seem to remember it right now, but I will insert it here, that does some color. I believe I can't remember if it's stranded color work or if it's like clever striping or something that blends colors as you go. It's not quite like your normal fade, but you can make a fade progression, and even colors that don't necessarily go together, the way that she blends them kind of makes them look like they were meant to. So I decided to go with this because it is 1,200 yards. So I went ahead and decided to put the brown at the end. So I think that's gonna make a fun shawl. And again, I'll put the name of it here because I can't remember and I didn't take notes. I have been so busy packing for the upcoming move. I'm actually not necessarily, I haven't been packing, but I've been going every day through another cabinet or another closet and throwing things away or getting things ready to donate. And then other things that I know that I'm going to keep. So I'm separating and sorting, and every day I go through another piece of the house and I find things and things that I forgot. I found a whole bag full of photographs from 15, 20 years ago that I thought I had lost in the last move. And no, I found them buried deep way back in a cabinet that I didn't even realize they were there. So I spent a good amount today of looking at these old photographs of my kids when they were really small. So it was exciting. I'm running into a lot of things that I forgot I had, so it's exciting. So one of the other things that I found was some yarn. Now, I don't know what yarn this is. I know that I got it, oh God, years ago, again, through Ravelry, through somebody having a D-stash sale on their page. I don't know what this is. I know that it's green. It's beautiful, and it's kind of a scratchier wool, and I know that it's wool. There is this. It says British wool, but I don't know if that's a brand or if it's just like a tag saying, you know, this is British wool. This is wool from, you know. Oh, that's not the one. Sorry. But there's no other labeling on this. This just says pure British wool grown in the United Kingdom. So I don't think that this is a brand. I just think this is, you know, kind of just like a little, hey, this is UK wool. So I don't know what this is, It's kind of scratchy. It's a worsted weight. And I have, oh my God, there were 3 in that bag. 3 skeins. Sorry. And then there's, I think there's 4 more in here. I don't know why I bought these. I don't know. I guess I was thinking I was going to make a worsted weight sweater, which I still might, but I'm a little scared too because I am a bigger girl and I need a lot of yardage for a sweater. And I don't know how many yards these are because I don't know what brand they are. So I'm a little scared. I'm a little scared to pick a pattern and then run out. But who was I watching? It was one of the podcasts that talked about being able to figure out your yardage based on weight. Like if you measure out a specific number of yards, ball it up and weigh that, and then do some math based on the full skein, the weight of the full skein, you'd be able to figure out the yardage of the full skein that way. That sounds like a lot of work. But I mean, I think it's possible for me to find out the yardage. But I would like to know, it doesn't feel like it's superwash. It definitely feels like if I make something out of this, I'm going to have to be so careful with it. But it was just kind of exciting. I'm like, whoa, I have 2 big giant bags full of this green worsted weight yarn. That's weird. So I've just been finding all kinds of interesting things in my closets, and I think I told you all about a dilemma I had about my books and if I was going to take some of those with me. So I spent some of the day going through my bookshelves, and I have about 8 different series. Some of them I haven't even started yet, but they're cozy mysteries. And you know, as the series keep going, I keep adding to the books, but I haven't even started the first book yet. I had about 8 of those types of series on my bookshelves, and it just kept growing and growing and growing because I haven't read them yet. So what I did was I got I went on the internet and I logged onto my library account and I compared what I had to what the library has. So any series that they had the full set up to date in the library, those ones I donated. And anything that the library didn't have, because I have some obscure authors and titles as well. So the ones that I could not find in my local library, I kept. That ended up being about 2 laundry baskets full of books that I'm keeping. And that's not counting what I still have on one last shelf. And then there was another laundry basket full of books that I'm donating. So I got rid of about a third of my books, and I donated them to my library. Now they won't go on to their regular, you know, to be checked out like a normal library book, but there's a little store called the Friends of the Library within the library, and you can go in and buy books at a discounted price, usually for a buck or $2 for the used paperbacks. So I went ahead and donated those there. And I also donated a whole bunch of old board games that haven't seen the light of day in a good 10 years. You know, because as my kids got older and they got more involved into sports and choir and just we didn't really have time to do some of these board games. They've just been sitting in the closet. They were perfect other than maybe a little bit of dust. So I went ahead and I donated those as well to the library. So maybe they can use them for, you know, some sort of special events with kids and whatever, because I know that they do stuff like that. So I donated those. The only 2 games, the board games that I kept were Scrabble and Monopoly because, you know, I love those games. Yeah, so it's just been an interesting kind of thing going through all my stuff. And I still have so much to do. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Thank you for joining me, and I hope that the rest of your week is fabulous. Bye-bye. I got Aggie from the Humane Society here in Albuquerque. And when I went there, I had looked online and I went searching for this younger female cat who was obviously a stray or maybe even just, you know, born on the streets. She was very rugged looking. She had pieces torn out of her ears. One just kind of stayed flopped over from all of the different cat fights she'd been in. And, you know, they assumingly had, you know, rehabilitated her enough to be able to send her home with someone. She would hiss when you got close. You could really, really tell that she wasn't quite ready to go home with someone. So I chose to just leave her, and hopefully they can rehabilitate her a little bit more before someone else chose her. And I was walking out, and, you know, I couldn't help but look into all the other little cubicles that had cats in them. And I saw in one of the lower shelves, or cubicles, I saw this cat just glaring at me. These big green eyes, and she just had this look of doom on her face, like she was just about to curse you or something. She just looked so angry. I was like, why is she snarling at me like that? My goodness. So I went up and I'm like, hello, kitty. And she literally got up, turned around, flashed her butt at me, and laid down facing the back wall so that she couldn't see my face. And I'm like, oh no, honey. Oh, no. So I went and I asked if I could play with her or introduce myself to her in the playroom or whatever you call it. The bonding room, maybe. I don't know what they call it. So, you know, we went in there and she was kind of aloof with me at first. She, you know, just kind of sat there and stared at me. She wasn't like the other one where she went into a corner and hissed, but she just kind of sat there, plopped her butt down and just glared at me. And I was like, oh my God, she's so scary. But I was bound and determined to make this cat like me, especially because I saw on her little description card that she was, at the time, she was 10 years old and her previous owner had passed away. And then I got really sad because her previous owner had her declawed. And all I kept thinking was, nobody's going to want this old ass cranky cat. Nobody's going to want her. And I want her to be loved for however much longer she has on this earth. I don't care if she's cranky. I'm taking her home. So I did. I took her into the room. She stared at me for a long while. I stared at her. And then I kind of like would pretend that I wasn't keeping an eye on her. And after a while, she kind of warmed up and started, you know, hitting my legs with her tail, which I took as a good sign. She was at least a little bit closer and making physical contact. So I went ahead and got her, and now she's my best friend, and she just, we have a routine, and she still glares at me, and she's 14 now. And so she's getting a little bit senile and stuff. So it's a little bit sad, but you know, I've given her a good home and she knows love now, and she's going to be with me until she can't be anymore. I love her, and we just spend a lot of snuggly moments together, and then, you know, she sleeps in the bed with me, and I just love her so much. And I am so glad that I found her, because I was literally about to walk out of that place, and it was just kind of fate that I found Miss Agatha. Aggie, Agatha, I call her different things. My son calls her Waggy, but she's getting older, of course, and her teeth are, you know, she's lost a couple of teeth now, and sometimes she forgets to use the litter box. she's a menace, but I love her. So, sorry, that was my little sideline about my cat named after Agatha Christie.